Time for business now with Kate Moody. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Catherine.
And we're going to take our viewers back to a bit of a shocking incident here in France in 2014. It was when employees from Goodyear Tyres actually held their boss hostage for more than 24 hours. Now, emotions have been running high at the company once again today.
Yeah, no one's forgotten about that rather shocking incident, obviously. Union members have gone on strike in Paris this Thursday to protest the jail sentences that were handed down to those 8 former employees who were found guilty of boss snapping. Services on 2 of the city's main train lines were cut in half, and protests took place both in Paris and other French cities. Diptyque Laurent has the story.
Chanting, "Let our colleagues off," more than 1,000 union members gathered in Paris's Place de la Nation, a solidarity protest for 8 jailed colleagues. In January 2014, workers at the Goodyear tire plant in northern France went on strike after the company decided to close its factory. 8 workers then kidnapped 2 executives and held them hostage for 30 hours.
Vous allez rester là une paire de jours, je peux vous le dire.
Last month, a French court sentenced them to 9 months in jail and a further 15 months suspended sentence in what was an unprecedented ruling for a labor dispute.
We were all fired. We all lost our jobs. We're having a hard time finding other jobs in these economic times. We want to turn the page without the added weight of 8 employees going to jail.
5 of the 8 men charged were members of France's powerful CGT trade union, including Michael Waman, one of the leaders of the Goodyear protests.
I've been sentenced, but really, I've been sentenced to act. I think everyone here feels that way, that we need to change things for ourselves and for our children.
Thousands of people have signed a petition asking the government to quash the prison sentences. The court's decision could set a precedent for future cases, however, notably the forthcoming trial of Air France union members for their alleged involvement in a protest last year in which the company's HR boss had his shirt ripped off.
More challenges ahead for the Eurozone economy. The European Commission has slightly downgraded its forecast for growth from 1.8 to 1.7% for the coming year. France is expected to grow at a rate of 1.5%, while Greece will see only a slight dip. That's better than predicted. Unemployment rates are also expected to fall slowly, and the Eurozone average is likely to stay above 10%. The EU's economic affairs chief said a number of external factors were largely to blame. We don't have Pierre Moscovici there. Well, he was talking about low oil prices, the influx of migrants coming into Europe, and a slowdown in growth in China. All these factors, he says, pose risk to the growth of the Eurozone economy. Now, investors largely shrugged off that forecast during a volatile session on the European markets. That led to a mixed finish. A rally in mining stocks helped push the FTSE 100 up more than 1%. The DAX lagging behind there, closing down nearly half a percentage point. Wall Street struggling to turn upwards. The Dow added 100 points in mid-morning trading. Weaker than expected data, holding things back a little bit as the number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits rose by 8,000 last week. That's more than expected. We'll be getting monthly figures on Friday. Let's take a look at some of the day's other business headlines now. Credit Suisse is to cut 4,000 jobs after reporting pre-tax losses of 5.7 billion euros for the last 3 months of 2015. Much of that is linked to the purchase of an investment bank back in 2000. Last year's net revenue dropped by nearly a fifth, and the Swiss bank says it saw its shares fall to their lowest level in 24 years, losing as much as 13% on Thursday. Shell confirmed that it's cutting 10,000 jobs because of the slump in oil prices. Its 2015 profits fell by 80%. That's the biggest drop in 13 years. Using the measure called current cost of supplies, the company made $3.8 billion last year. Shell is the latest of the major oil companies to report big drops in earnings because of that slump in global oil prices. And the Japanese electronics giant Sharp is expected to accept a buyout offer from the Taiwanese Foxconn. Foxconn, which is a major Apple contractor, is believed to have offered around $5.8 billion for the firm. Sharp lost more than $900 million in the 9 months to the end of December, according to its latest financial results. Now, protesters gathered outside the signing of the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal this Thursday. The massive free trade agreement, which still needs to be ratified by lawmakers of all 12 participating countries, aims to link about 40% of the global economy on either side of the Pacific. But like the transatlantic trade deal that's still under negotiation, the TPP has sparked huge controversy. Phoebe Lancer-Wood takes a look at the opposition.
A controversial pact signed but not yet sealed or delivered. The Trans-Pacific Partnership will link 12 countries to boost business and growth, but opponents have highlighted its corporate agenda. Hundreds took to the streets of Auckland as it was being signed.
Many New Zealanders do not accept that we should be selling our democracy by signing up to the TPP. Whether they're signing it in here or somewhere else, there's thousands of us out here who totally oppose it, and will keep on fighting it in the months to come.
The US-led initiative aims to slash trade barriers and divert influence from China, which notably isn't included in the pact. Those against it say it will be bad for workers, both in America and overseas. They argue the deal hands power to big corporations, putting profits over people. Opponents say the agreement outlines loopholes in labour laws and rewards for outsourcing, which could lead to job losses and lower wages. Others are worried the TPP will affect access to affordable medicine. If the pact enforces equal pricing across all 12 nations, pharmaceutical companies may be entitled to drive up prices. There's anger too behind the secretive nature of the discussions behind the deal. Similar concerns have been raised about the transatlantic trade and investment partnership still under negotiation. That free trade agreement could bring benefits of up to $100 billion for the United States and European Union, but still has hurdles to overcome.
Martin Shkreli has refused to answer questions from a U.S. congressional panel that's investigating huge price hikes at his former pharmaceutical company. He laughed and pled the Fifth Amendment, which protects him from self-incrimination, as lawmakers lambasted his decision to raise the cost of a life-saving treatment by 5,000% last year. Take a listen.
What do you say to that single pregnant woman who might have AIDS, no income, and she needs Daraprim in order to survive? What do you say to her when she has to make that choice? What do you say to her?
On the advice of counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and respectfully decline to answer your question.
Now, he is certainly within his rights to decline to answer those kinds of questions, but Shkreli continued a rather mocking tone even after that hearing had been called off. On Twitter, he described the panel as imbeciles. The 32-year-old faces separate criminal charges of fraud in connection with another drug company that he owned. Altogether, not a very popular figure for a lot of people in the US at the moment.
Yeah, very closely watched proceedings indeed. Thanks very much, Kate Moody there with the Business News.